Alright, hello everybody, welcome. This is a new video. I brought you 7.21, 7.2, 7.2.5 shaman guides on how to heal, and nothing really changed back then for Legion, but now in BFA we do have some changes. I made a video to start the expansion, essentially with some beta testing, some alpha testing, and what to expect getting into the World of Warcraft. Well, now that it's a few weeks into the expansion, people are doing mythics and heroics already. I kind of figured it was a good time to actually talk about what specs you need to be when you're healing as a Resto Shaman in Old Deer and in Mythic Pluses. So you remember me as Rush TV. I've been streaming under the name the Gummy King, and this is the How to Heal Part 1 for beginners. Alright, so we're going to take a look at the raid spec first. In the talent tree for shamans, of course, for restoration. If you're going to look at the top tree, this is really just dependent upon the fight. If you are able to maximize Unleashed Life, I would suggest doing so. It unleashes an elemental force of life, healing a friendly target for 9,000 and increasing the effect of the shaman's next direct heal by 45%. So if you know that something big is coming and you hit this Unleashed Life, it heals someone for 9k, and then your chain heal or your healing surge will do something crazy. I would suggest using that in situations where you can predict the healing. If you are in a group that's heavy on, cooldown smashers and all that, and you can't quite get an effective heal off without overhealing, then probably Torrent is going to be your best guess. It is a little bit of a passive talent for you. Increase the initial heal from Riptide by 30%. And so it does some pretty good differences. I have logs from last week to this week where I can compare how much my Torrent did versus Unleashed Life, and I think it really just came down to the fight, and I think Unleashed Life pretty much won the situation. The next tier down, the level 30 talents, I was divided upon these myself. Last week I ran with most of the expansion I ran with Earthshield, and I think running Earthshield is beneficial to leveling for survivability. But I think at the end of the day, Echo of Elements is going to be the way to go for this. So your Riptide, your Healing Stream Totem, your Lava Burst all have 2 charges. Number 45, if you have issues with survivability, Spirit Wolf is going to be your thing. While transform into a Ghost Wolf, you gain 5% movement speed. Cool. It's also 5% damage reduction every 1 second, stacking up to 4%. So while in your Ghost Wolf, the longer you're in your Ghost Wolf, the stronger your damage reduction is going to be. And so situations where you're on the move and you're not healing, which I don't suggest, you could pop into your Spirit Wolf because you're going to be moving and healing a lot of the times. I do not like it as much, but it is pretty good in situations where you want to save your own tail. Static Charge is the one that I normally go with. I went with this essentially last expansion when it was under a different moniker when you got the lightning totem for it. But this one is just reduces the cooldown of the capacitor totem by 5 seconds up to each stun that you're in, maximum reduction of 20 seconds. If you hover over the ability, it is a 1 minute cooldown. So if you hit 4 targets with your stun, you're down to 40 seconds. So it's helpful to have that ability go, especially when you need AoE stuns. And there's some fights I can think of where the infestation was super terrible, and so having that stun was super helpful. For your 4th tier, level 60, you have essentially your other 2 talents the totems that were situational, and I couldn't really see situations where I used Ancestral Protection a lot. Earthen Wall Totem is pretty good to if you have everyone stacked up and you drop this down, everybody's inside of it, getting redirect heals. or you can just go with the Ancestral Vigor, which targets that you heal with Healing, Wave, Surge, Chain Heal, Riptide, gain 10% health. This is good early. Your tanks don't have enough hit points. Give them 10% more health, gives them a little bit of a boost to kind of help with, things. Plus you're healing them constantly, so they'll get the 10% and they pretty much can maintain it. It's just a decent health boost. I think eventually I'm probably going to give Earthen Wall Totem another go. But while our tanks are still in the gearing up stage, I think Ancestral Vigor is going to be the way to go. And I think other people can agree with me on that one. The next tier, tier 5, level 75. Nature's Guardian is good when you're leveling, I think. It fights where you're dipping down a lot of health, like Mythrax, or a Gahoon. Situations where you miss a heal or cooldown or some kind of effect mechanic, it kind of messes you up. I think it would be good situationally for that. But at the end of the day, you're going to be doing a lot of movement and a lot of healing. So you're going to want to have your Spirit Walker's Grace to have a shorter cooldown. So this is just, it knocks a minute off the cooldown. So it's a minute cooldown instead of 2-minute cooldown. And then also you gain 20% extra movement speed. So when you do have to move out of stuff and you still have to heal, it's really good. On the Mother fight, if the winds are blowing you towards the grates or sucking you in or whatever, having the Spirit Walker's Grace is super helpful for that. It's huge. You always move in, you're casting where people are taking damage, can't get out of the fires in time. You're running, you're throwing you're healing stuff down, your movement. It's beneficial. I think this is like hands down like the talent that you want to go with. It's passive, you don't think about it. The only thing you have to think about is using your Spirit Walker's Grace. And you should be using that as much as possible in situations where you have to run. Level 90 tier, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This one is tough. This one, I guess this is kind of your playstyle, what you normally play, what you like. I was a big fan of the artifact power last time, and so Downpour is kind of like a huge thing for me. It's what I would absolutely love to do. Throw it down and heal, burst heal people within an area. Within the 12 yards is this circle. People get healed. I think it's up to 6 people. It's about 10k heals. It's pretty crazy. And then the cooldown is increased by 5 seconds for every target that is healed. But let's say that you drop it and everyone moves out of the way and you don't cancel it in time. The cooldown for Downpour is immediately back because it's 5 seconds cooldown, right? So if you hit everybody, then you're 30-second cooldown. So it's, they kind of benefit you for doing that. Other people have said to use Flash Flood. This one essentially just makes your heals a little bit quicker. One thing that I don't like about quicker heals, especially when stacking haste. People don't like to stack haste as healers because all the other abilities kind of benefit us. Haste just makes you run out of mana faster. Just kind of like one of those things. I don't know. Maybe like you're trying to snipe people and that's the game that you play. Flash Flood is going to be what you want to do, just snipe people, I guess. But I'm a huge fan of Downpour. Cloudburst Totem, if you're really good at the Cloudburst Totem, I think you could go with this. With the Echo of Elements, you get 2 Cloudburst Totem drops, which would be nice. It also replaces your Healing Stream Totem, so it's just something that you don't get down, which kind of makes one of your artifacts irrelevant. But this is essentially the same trinket, or the same totem that you're used to. The only problem is you don't have AG to build it up and burst all that damage. So I don't know. I haven't really played around with it. It's just I'm not really a big fan of no AG Cloudburst totems, especially when you have Downpour and some of the relics that benefit your Healing Stream Totem. All right, for the level 100s, the 7th tier, it is crazy for me to say, but Wellspring has actually made its way up on people's rankings. I'm still a fan of the High Tide. I think High Tide is going to be what you're going to do because you have the additional target that bounces, and also you have reduction of the bounce off. But with Wellspring, you do like an arc and it heals things in front of you. So if you do have people stacked up, like Cahoon, everyone needs to stack up for that. You throw down your downpour, your healing rain, and then you just Wellspring everybody in front of it. It's kind of crazy AE heals. It really just depends on the group and if they can manage to get in a loose stack for you to make your Wellspring worth it. Especially with a 20-second cast time, it is, crazy amount of heals, right? So you can have a 20-second downpour, you can have a 10-second rain of healing rain. So in the middle, you can have a 20-second Wellspring. It'd be something worth playing around with, I think. Is something I would like to play around with for that. Last week I ran with Ascendants in Raid. It was fun, but it's not sustainable. I think High Tide and Wellspring probably, most likely, will win the cake for that. All right, so that is my my talents for raiding. I'm always open to changing things up. I think my raiding talents were a little bit different when I said, all right, so here's what to expect when BFA is released. I think, playing and doing things kind of helped with that. All right, so we're going to take a look at our Mythic Plus talents. I'm not going to go into too much depth of this because I plan on making a Mythic/Mythic Plus video. All right, here we are with my Mythic Plus build. I've only run a couple Mythic Pluses, so I'm not 100%, professional at this Mythic Plus stuff yet. Other than ran it a crap ton in Legion. So I have that going for me. So we have a couple of talents and a little bit of variations I think would benefit you in these runs as well. So the number one thing, in my opinion, Undulation, Tier 1, Undulation. Every healing wave or surge you cast heals for an additional, every third healing wave or healing surge will be a benefit of 50%. So that's huge. You're basically spamming healing waves and healing surges anyways in Mythic Pluses. So I think Undulation is pretty good. You can make a case for Unleashed Life. With Ascendance and Undulation, just those combination right there is just going to be absolutely bonkers. Again, Echo of Elements is pretty much the go-to. That way you have more Riptides, you have more Healing Stream Totems, and you also have 2 Lava Bursts that can help with damage on some slow damage portions. Spirit Wolf, this is good depending on what fight you're in. If you're in a Mythic Plus, you're not really in the mood to stunning or grabbing things because you want to be on the move, you want to keep moving. And so having something that slows people down is pretty much a no-go when it comes to Mythic Pluses, or at least in my experience running with people that I run with, where if they have to stop for whatever reason, they get a little antsy because I guess they want to beat that timer or something, I guess. So I think Spirit Wolf is going to be your thing. I explained it earlier, just movement speed and damage reduction every time that it stacks up while being in Ghost Wolf. So you have a situation where you got to keep up with people. You're in Ghost Wolf, you're cruising around. Here we go. Ancestral Vigor is just going to provide survivability in a 5-man. Earth and Wall Totem is going to be decent if you have a close-knit group. I think it would help with the damage reduction, but I think the 10% is just going to be beneficial for that. The next one down, Nature's Guardian, probably is going to be beneficial in some of the Mythic Plus fights. It just depends on situational. But earlier, as I said about movement and moving around, I think a lot of people run the Wind Rush Totem. I know I have in the past. And if you throw it ahead and you guys just blow through it, I think it's helpful with the moving, but helpful for boss fights. I don't know if I move a whole lot in Mythic Pluses. There's not too many fights where it's almost impossible to heal unless I move. Maybe the Atal Dazar, the second boss in there, but I think Windrush Totem is going to be yours, or the Nature's Guardian. Just depends on how you're feeling. Here we go with the Flash Flood. Like I said, the cast time is reduced. I just think that the pairing of Undulation, Flash Flood, and Ascendance, more heals out. You're not sniping anybody because you're not healing with anybody. So I think that your additional quick heal will get the 50% heal out quicker. That would be the only benefit to running Flash Flood. Or you could just go with Downpour and continue with what you're doing. But I think that Downpour provides a lot of disadvantages, especially in a 5-man group if they're not, grouped together, or if you drop it and then they just like kind of disperse or whatever. And then the last one, this is a talent I always stick with when I run mythics, dungeons, anything like that, is the ascendance. So you turn into a water ascendant for 15 seconds, and everything you heal is distributed, duplicated, whatever, across all your nearby alleys. It is a huge healing buff, especially in a 5-man, because everyone pretty much gets healed. So that's it for my mythic pluses. Nothing really flashy about that.